Hi, I'm Alex Archbold, and I've been buying and selling antiques since I was 9 years old. From basements to scrapyards, I'll look just about anywhere I can to find lost antiques and collectibles. And sometimes I'll go big and buy everything. I never know what's going to happen or who I'm going to meet. This is our life, this is our adventure, and this is Curiosity Inc.
I'm home, honey.
Guys, and welcome to today's episode. I have a fun episode today. I am going to go out and buy a classic car in need of some repair and see if I can get it together and make it look show-worthy, or at least a whole lot better, for under $600 Canadian. So that's about a $450 budget US to try and bring this vehicle back to life. So I actually did find a vehicle. I was out of town and I was with my friend Bill, and fellow had he had a lot of cars, like lots of cars to choose from. And I ended up finding one, and it's gonna be here any minute. So let's see if we can get this car done. I'm giving myself, I wanna get it done 5 days for $600 or less, and that's start to finish, to make it from kind of a clunker to a show car. Let's see if we can do it. There is the car in question. It's an MGA convertible. It has a removable hardtop on it. I'm just gonna let him get pulled around here. We're gonna back it in the driveway. And I should say it looks decent from here, but it's got spots of primer where people have done a little bit of work to it, and the paint is kind of uneven, and like I said, it's sort of brushed on. The British car company MG, or Morris Garage, built many popular sports cars through the 1950s, including the T-Series, the TD, the TF, and then on to the A-Series, which was styled after a Le Mans race car that raced around the track in the early 50s, inspiring this design. I've always liked the look of it. It's very curvy, it's very appealing. This one, though, not in the best shape, but let's see if we can fix it. And Melissa has come out to watch the spectacle of the car getting offloaded. Do you remember the one we had before?
Yeah, the coupe?
Yeah. We drove it in winter. Do you remember that? We had to drive it from the shop when they were done restoring it.
We didn't drive it looking out the front, though. You had to put your head out the window.
Oh, that's right, because it fogged up, because it was like minus 30. The shop said, come get your car, and I decided not to tow it. I thought, I'll just drive it. Minus 30, the windshield fogged up, and I had to stick my head out the window. But she is solid. Okay, the car is offloaded. And I don't know if you can kind of see in the light, see how you can kind of see the brush marks. That's what people used to do. They just used to brush paint cars. That's actually how the very first cars were done. They didn't have spray guns in the turn of the century. The first Model Ts and that were brush painted. So the car was registered not that long ago. It is a running, driving vehicle. I'll say that right now. It's solid. It's got some dents, it's got some imperfections, some peeling paint and stuff. This is an aluminum hood, or some of you might say, don't say aluminum, it's aluminium. Either way, it's that. And somebody's put some filler in it, and it's cracked over the years from that hood being open and closed. The bright work is generally good, except for this grille, which is nasty, but he gave me a whole pile of parts for it, including a brand new grille, a brand new convertible top. He even had the side curtains, the original side curtains. They're not in the best shape, but the windows, it doesn't have roll-up windows. You actually had to clip these things in if you wanted to use it in inclement weather. Like if it started to really rain or something, you had to keep these things behind your seat and actually install your side windows in. It's a true sports car from that era. It's a 1961. And I am going to try and make it. I almost can't believe that I'm going to try and do this for under 600 bucks to redo the whole bodywork on this thing. But I am starting with a decent, you know, it's going to need a lot of sanding, and it's going to need some filler and a little of this, a little of that. But I'm optimistic that I'll be able to make this look like something better than it does right now anyway. So first order of business, with Steven's help, we're going to take the roof off the car so you can actually see the whole vehicle the way it's meant to look. So we're gonna go that way. Ready? 3, 2, 1, up, and let's walk it back. I started lifting too early. There we go. Let's set this on the grass. It's actually a rare option to have the removable hardtop with it. A lot of times you don't get that with the car, but this is what it's supposed to look like. Okay. And it looks like this hardtop hasn't been off in a while based on the vast amount of dust that was underneath there. I'll have to unthread these. I wonder if they're held on with the bolt. Yeah, they are on the other side. Those will have to come out. That's for the cover, your tonneau or your convertible top cover. Actually, these back here are for specifically for your tonneau, which I don't know if it has one or not. There's the top frame. I can see the ground through the back. That's not unusual in this car. There's a little chunk of, actually this is the cover. And if you don't have that cover on, yeah, you can see the back. And it would have had 2 batteries on either side. A lot of people just put one in, but look at that interior. It's not so bad. Like, it's really dusty, but that's where you have to see the potential in something. Somebody's upgraded this dash to sort of a chrome dash at one point. I'll see if I can clean it up, but the seats don't have a single rip or tear. They're just filthy. Really not too shabby. All right, well, we're gonna go for supper, and when I get back, I'll start tearing into this car and start getting it ready for paint. But for now, everybody's waiting on me, so I gotta go and I'll tear into this in a little bit. Okay, back at the car. Sun is going down. I gotta try and get it indoors. I'm either gonna push it. Where's the handle? This is how you get into the car. It's actually like a little pull cord. I'm gonna see if this thing will actually start. He claims that it might. It has a battery in it. So here goes nothing. Here goes nothing. Ooh, I forgot what a tight fit this was, getting my legs in here. There we go. Okay. Memory serves. Make sure it's in neutral. Turn the starter switch on. Which one's the choke? Okay, that's going to be starter, I think. For S, that should be choke. And nothing. That should be the horn. No dice. Maybe the battery's disconnected. All right. Yeah, okay. It's probably not going to start. Ooh. Geez, the horn was stuck on. Okay, well, we've got power. At least to the horn anyway. Let's try this again. Park my keystone here. Oh, I hear the fuel pump. I've got a light that should be in the dash dangling down there. So I'll deal with that later. There's power. So it's cranking. Come on. Okay, fuel pump is cranking just fine. I might have to prime the carb a little bit. Okay. They actually have oiled little pots in the carbs. Sometimes you gotta give them a little bit of pumping, make sure they're full of oil. Let's check that over. It's cranking, but no go. I don't really want to take the air cleaners off right now if I don't have to. I do have some quick start if need be, but let's try cranking it again, see if she'll go. I feel like I've managed to almost kill whatever is left of this battery. Come on. Oh, almost went. Yep, it's unhappy, but it almost went. Well, it looks like I'm resorting to pushing on day one to get it back in the garage. I'll put the charger on that battery, let it charge overnight on trickle charge, and we'll try again tomorrow, see if she'll go. But it has an engine, and the horn worked because it got stuck. Got some random lights going, so maybe there's hope. Maybe there's some hope for it. Car is in the garage, doesn't look right. Sitting next to a E-Type Jag. Brothers from another mother. Or cousins from another aunt. I don't know, something like that. Okay, this is gonna be a good opportunity for me to do an inventory of the parts which came with the vehicle. Again, other than the paint that I purchased, I am not wanting to spend any more money on anything if I don't have to. So I have to do an inventory of the parts that I have. There appears to be an extra door. Don't know why. The door that's on the car looks totally fine, but there's an extra door. There's an extra seat back that looks like, I don't know, it looks okay, other than the upholstery on it, but I don't know why there's a seat back, but there you go. Some vents, those might come in handy. I'm hoping they replace these with better vents and they're not just missing, but the telltale signs of blank screws holding nothing on makes me think that these vents were never attached under the dash there. So it looks like there's one, there's two. I'm actually gonna get a little table set up and lay these out properly. Charger is on, and while that's going, let's see, what are we at so far? 31% charge. While that's going, I'm gonna have a peek inside some of these boxes because it looks like there are some new parts. That is a chrome-plated bumper overrider. This is a little decorative piece that goes on your bumper, so if you crash into something, the theory is that it would gently nudge into this and not ruin your bumper. These bumpers are not overly durable, so that's probably not gonna do a whole lot, but it is important to have on the car for looks. I'll show you on the Jag, it's those. These little guys right there. So the MG's meant to have those little overriders as well. And they, oh, it does. It has them on. Are they the back ones maybe? Nope, they're on too. I guess it's just an extra set. Why? Why do I have a set of, are these dented up? No, they're good. Okay, well, there's that. A part I don't need. Is this another part I don't need? There's probably a pair of them. I've done that before too, actually. It probably says right on it, overrider. Yep, it's a pair of them. I've ordered too many of the same thing. You click add to cart and you end up with too much of the same stuff. These are for the windscreen. See that? That would bolt down. You'd have to take the fender off and then that would unbolt. And to properly do this, to paint this, I will probably end up having to take that windscreen off, which means I'll probably have to take that fender off. It's a bigger job than you think. It's not just a little bit of masking tape and spray. You have to do some prep work if you're gonna do it right. And even though this guy did, you know, probably, hopefully I'll say a worse job than what I'll do. And again, on camera, maybe it doesn't look that bad, but it's not great. He did go to the effort to put new gray trim. This is like a little rubber edging that, like a stopper between the fender and the body. He put that all in brand new. So there's that. And the only way to do that is to loosen off all the bolts for the fender so that you can actually just pull it out and then you end up with this sort of gray strip. It's been years. Like I said, when Melissa was there, we had one of these cars when we first were kind of married. I don't even know if we were married. We might have just been engaged, actually. And we've been married for some time now. Just random bits. That is dashboard wood. And that's probably the wood for the rear right there. That somebody has a better one upholstered on there. And it's bolted on. Yeah, there's gonna be some disassembly here. But yeah, it's been a really long time since I've worked on the car is what I'm getting at. But I still remember certain things about it. I guess you don't forget some stuff. I remember putting that trim on. These are the side curtains. That's most of a side curtain. This one looks like it's fairly complete, where you kind of goes in that hole there. This is actually the other side. That's not for this side. I'll show you. I may as well show you since I got it here. Oh no, it's starting to rain. Whatever do we do? You have to pull your side curtains out of the back, and that would bolt. I guess maybe you do it when the door's open. Yeah, that goes like that. And that slips in there. And then you have windows. And if you want to open your window, you slide this little thing here, and it's just plexiglass. And this is trashed. It looks like the pigeons and everything else have been all over that thing. So you can get new replacement. It's just plexiglass. I could cut that easy enough. And this could be upholstered. At least I have the frames. I mean, that's better than nothing. But I don't think I'll ever reinstall those. When we had our MGTD, I actually did drive it right until early winter, right into late fall, like snow on the ground. I drove an MGTD, which looks like a 1920s car basically. And I was driving that as my almost everyday car. And that wasn't all that long ago. That was maybe 12, 13 years ago, before I did YouTube. I've been doing stupid things for years, even before I showed other people. Okay, some extra. Those look like, what is that? Heat maybe? Cable for the heat box. I don't see any spots where there's missing stuff here, so I'm hoping that I'm not missing it. Maybe it goes underneath right there, actually. I'll do a little investigating later. This is the trunk rack. Don't know if I'll install it. They go on something like that, and then you can put your luggage on the back. They are handy because the trunks in these cars are not very big. Oh, actually, that's another thing. I didn't even check the trunk to see what's in there. Maybe there's even more parts in the trunk. Let's find out. How do I open the trunk? Is there a cable release? Yep, right there. There we go. It is kind of a neat design. They don't have... I thought there was a little button or a little handle here that was supposed to go here. Seems to me there was like a little chrome thing that went there, but maybe I'm not remembering correctly. Okay, not too much in there. A spare tire, some tools. It looks like some carpet, trunk carpeting maybe. It's your usual kind of trunk stuff. And what color is the inside of that? It's all red. Everywhere it's red, it's red. It's the most nonsensical thing I've said all day. Wherever the sky is blue, it's blue. Whatever color you see, that's the color it is. Oh, there's more boxes. More boxes. And I should point out that the convertible top frame is right there. And I'm hoping I have all the bits I need to put the new top on. There is a random windshield wiper and some tan upholstery, some lift the dot. This is for a tonneau cover or your convertible top, and piping. Tonneau cover is a really nice thing to have. Okay, there's a brand new convertible top right there. See if I remember how to install a convertible top. It's been a few. The last one I did was on that Alfa Romeo project, and I did do a YouTube video on that. So if you go back through my vault, I did successfully install a convertible top on a Alfa Romeo some years back. Some windshield washer parts, wooden shift knob. That's the washer pump. I'm guessing the windshield wiper system isn't totally hooked up with the washer jets. All that stuff seems to be in that box. And this is a box of some other new parts. thankfully, some of the new parts. Okay, this is the beading for the grill. The same type of piping that goes around the grill. And here we have a brand spanking new grill with the badge on it from the looks of things. How do I get into this spider web of stuff? There we go. That'll be a vast improvement over the grill that's on it right now, which looks like it was recovered from the lower deck of the Titanic. Ugh. So I'll pull that off actually fairly soon. That's got to come off anyway. So I guess next step for me will be some disassembly on this bad boy. And I guess I'll probably start with start by taking the grill off, as it's pretty nasty. It's got to come off anyway. And just start removing little bits. At least there's not a lot of trim down the side or on the hood that I have to worry about. There might be a challenge here with getting this guy off. I don't really want to take the fender off, I'll be honest. Because then you have to align. Mind you, look, I'm worried about alignment gaps. And look, thin, giant, thick gap all the way down to the bottom. They used to have a funny system at the factory. They had numerous types of different doors, and they just keep trying doors until they fit proper. So it's not an exact science to get the door gap somewhat right. As long as the door latches, I think that's all they cared about. Though maybe I'm going to be too fussy, but we'll see. It would be nice to get this windscreen off, though, at very least. Oh, I might be able to pull that back and tape around there. We'll see. But grill first, and then we'll go from there. Now, lucky for me, I happen to have a brand new grill, so I can look at the back of it to see where the mounting points are, and also what type of bolts these are going to be, so I can get my wrenches or get my spanners all ready. Since it's a British car, I should be calling that the bonnet and that the boot. My aluminium bonnet. I shouldn't say that, people always say, oh, people in England have such a great accent. They don't have any accent at all. We're the ones with the accent. They invented the language. I'm going to grab my wrenches and see what size this is, and hopefully it's the same size that's on the original grill, and I can start taking that off. I am making some progress getting the grill loose. I've got the top 3 bolts off. I've got 3 to do from the underside. If you look right here, I forgot about this feature. See that little hole right there? That's for an engine crank, like an old-timey movie. And there's an engine crank in the trunk. If your car, for some reason, wouldn't start, like the battery or whatever was dead like it is now, you could try hand cranking your car, like a black and white movie. The things they don't put on modern vehicles, like a crank to turn your engine over by hand, maybe that wouldn't be a bad feature. The other funny thing about this grill is it kind of reminds me, it feels like it was an afterthought. Like they designed the car, put all these nice kind of curvy lines on it, and they got to the grill and they're like, right, we need something a little bit better than a heating vent would be inside of your house. And they just stuck it right on. So we're going to get that off. Anyway, it does look a little bit better when you get a new one on. But I've seen some people have done conversions where they've actually put sort of an oval grill, like a customized grill. And it kind of looks like a Cobra a little bit, which is neat. But I'm going to respect the car, respect the tradition. I'm not going to do any kind of hot rodding to it or customization. I'm just going to keep it the way it is because, well, that's the nature of what I'm doing. And there we go. Only a mildly miserable thing to take off. Some of the bolts on the bottom were rusted and sheared off on me. But that's one thing done. And as I go through the car, I notice that this red overspray ends and it's black. And then under the hood, the firewall and everything is black, which leads me to believe that the original color for this car wasn't red, although red's kind of eye-catching and nice. I believe the original color for this car may have been black. And black is still a striking color on an MGA. If you've not seen one before, a lot of people repainted them red, just as people used to repaint Porsches like that one back there red. It's got a funny little chef's hat on. Were you baking? Yes, I was baking croissants. I don't know why it's French all of a sudden. What would a German baker be baking? Anyway. It must be getting late because I'm getting goofy. People always painted everything red. That's what I was getting at. And sometimes the colors that cars were originally are more interesting because, you know, you don't see them as often. Like my Jag over there, that's the factory color fit for it, that blue, sort of a steely gray blue. This, I believe, was black originally. And that Porsche was white. And somebody had repainted that red at one point too. So I think this car deserves to be put back to its black configuration. But to do a complete color change back to original is going to be a big job. I mean, I don't have to do under the hood necessarily, but I do have to do the underside of the hood and, you know, take the fender welting off. And anyway, there's a bunch of extra work that has to be done. If you just leave it red, then you can kind of leave some things like your door jambs, but not in this case. I might have to undo some of these screws down here. But look at the undercarriage. Completely solid. It's actually a very decent vehicle. Solid as a rock under there. And you can see all the little perforation and rivet marks where these rockers are still in excellent condition. So again, a very solid vehicle. I really hate dealing with rust, so I'm quite glad actually. Glad that it's not all rusty. So it might be a little bit of work to loosen these off, but I think it'll be worth it in the long run to be able to sand that fender proper, because it's kind of hard to sand up in there without, you know, tearing it up. I think the right thing to do is going to be to loosen these fenders off, at least enough that I can get that welting out. I've loosened the fender bolts. I don't want them off, I just wanted them enough that I could start to pull this welting out. If it's not too expensive, I might decide to get some new stuff, but that might get close to my budget. I've loosened the bolts on the windscreen, and Melissa has come out. She didn't really volunteer, I just said, hey, you're here.
I'm not sure what I'm doing yet.
Well, I'm gonna get on one side of that, and you're gonna get on the other, and we're gonna pull that up. And I was kind of half joking because Melissa has a dubious record with windscreens. You want to tell them? She doesn't want to tell. If I have a toy car and she picks it up to dust or whatever she's doing, she accidentally, lovingly, I don't think on purpose, will break off a rear view mirror or a windscreen. And it's happened on real cars too.
Better quality stuff.
So I've brought the windscreen demolition expert with me.
It just breaks now.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if your record holds. Maybe you come over to this side because I got this side loose. I'll come over and wiggle that side up, and then we should just be able to lift it up and then walk it over the back like we did the hardtop. Hang on. I can't give Melissa too hard of a time because she's my wife and she's also here helping me too. So Melissa successfully helped me remove the windscreen without it breaking in one piece, she says. So thank you to my wife for not breaking the windscreen. The reason I wanted to take that off is because, as you can see, the paint continues underneath here. It would be a pretty shoddy job. As much as I'm doing I shouldn't say cheap, I'm doing an inexpensive paint job. I want to do the best job I can. So removing that will allow me to get underneath there properly. And I will have to pull the dashboard sections and other bits back too to do the same thing. But for the first day's work, I've removed the windscreen. I've removed the fender welting from the one side, started to remove the bolts on the other. That'll be next video. I'll continue on with that. Got the inner kick panels off on the bottom down there. I had to take them off to access the bolts for the fender and the windscreen. And what else? Oh yeah, the grille is off. And all this was done before the battery even fully charged. So in about an hour and a half, I was able, see it's still at 92% now. It's not quite at 100 yet. But in that amount of time, I was able to get a good deal of stuff removed from this vehicle. So yeah, some pretty good progress. Basically, today and tomorrow are going to be prep days. getting things ready so that I can successfully sand and not have to worry about painting over important rubber and trim or leather, and just trying to do the best job I can do in preparing this car for an inexpensive paint job. I have it to the point right now where windscreen is off, got the majority of the trim off, and I'm ready now to wash it down and get ready to start sanding later this afternoon, which I have to admit I'm really excited about. And you'll be able to see very soon why I'm repainting the car, because many of you might be looking at it. Like I said in the video yesterday, it looks a lot better on camera than it does in real life. In fact, I had a friend, I sent a picture of the car to a friend of mine, and he tried to have an actual intervention with me to not paint the vehicle. He said, "It looks perfect, don't touch it." And I said, "Trust me, it needs to be done." Plus, I believe I have determined that this vehicle was black originally, and that is the color I'm going to put it back to. Some of the trim was easier to take off than others. Well, let me show you. I got the door all stripped down, upholstery is off on both sides. Luckily, again, rocker panels are excellent. I've got the fender welting, the beading that goes in here, that's removed off of all 4 fenders. Because the challenge is if you go to sand, your sander is going to come to about here, and then it would tear up that fender welting, and then trying to mask that off would be a nightmare. So I just loosened off all the bolts. You can see there's years of dust and stuff that's in there. Part of the reason why I've got to get this car taken out to wash it off. It's just filthy. I will throw a cover over the interior so that doesn't get all soaked. But it's just about ready to go. Oh yeah, bumpers. Took the back bumper off. It was just 2 bolts. And the same thing with the front bumper. It was 2 bolts as well. So that's pretty stripped down. I will probably take the bezels off of the lights on the front, so it's a little easier to tape around there. But generally, I want to do a decent job on painting this car, because it is actually kind of a cool car. It's not kind of a cool car. I like it quite a bit. So I want it to look nice. But without further ado, I'm going to roll this, wheel it outside, and wash it all off. And all the excitement of wanting to get this car ready is what to pull it out to get it washed and realize I've got to pick up a friend from the airport. So good thing I remembered. I had my calendar set and everything. I almost forgot. But here I am. Well, it looks like I found a Patrick. So Patrick, does this mean that you're back now?
I am back.
Officially back?
I am back.
More Patrick adventures?
Yes.
Okay.
I hope so.
And you got, I guess you have a moving truck coming back too.
Yes, eventually.
Not just all this? Okay, you ready? I guess we can head out these doors. Oh, you're gonna do the cart. Okay, this ought to be fun. I'm gonna watch you. I'm gonna stand here. That's right, Patrick is back. It's been 3 years since he was here. 3 years since you guys last saw him on a video. And now he's back in town, and excited to see what comes of it. Okay, let's try this whole starting the car thing again. A little bit more choke. Almost. There we go. Tack doesn't seem to be working. Oh, keep it going, keep it going. Oh, the motor sounds okay once it's running. Fuel gauge, not working. Tack, not working. Speedometer, who knows? But it did start. Might let it warm up a little bit. It hasn't been running in a couple of years. Let that warm up a bit. I'll be honest, it actually kind of looks cool without the windscreen on there. Oh, now begins the process of washing all this dust and everything off here and getting it ready to actually sand down. You can kind of see the cracks in the paint, the imperfections, which will all be gone hopefully very soon. I am pretty pleased that this thing is running though. Fills me with a little bit of confidence. Well, for my second day working on the car, I got it pretty darn stripped down, ready for sanding. I got the dust and dirt cleaned off, so I'm not sanding dirt into the paint. And I got it to run and drive. So a good second day. I'm going to come back out tomorrow morning, ideally, and actually start sanding this thing. So tomorrow it will start to take much different form. You can see the original black paint kind of on the inside there, and there's traces of the black paint along the back right there. Barely visible, but it was indeed black, I'm very certain, and it will go black again. That'll be the next update on this car, I guess. Probably do a part of the same video. We'll be sanding it down, but that's a pretty good second day. Lots accomplished, and I'll get back at it tomorrow. Well, there I have what is a very pink sanded down MGA. I'm gonna dust it off a little bit, and I had a bit of a surprise while I was working on it. There was a bit of black paint, but also a bit of green. So this might have been like a mossy green sort of color at one point. Either way, it's gonna go black because I think that'll look nice. I've got to dust off. Basically, just go around and dust everything off, and then start filling all the low spots so that can dry. I went over it with the 150 grit sandpaper, so it's got a nice smooth finish. And there was all sorts of areas where there was brush marks and orange peel, which is where the paint kind of starts to separate a bit. Little bumps and dust and debris. So I am glad that I'm taking it down to this level so that it will have an opportunity to have a nice smooth finish. But it doesn't look like much right now. I'm hoping I can transform it here pretty quick. But I'm going to get dusting and then start filling. Been working on the car all morning, and I have to admit I'm really impressed with the overall condition. There's not a speck of rust. Haven't found one spot of rust on this whole car, which is pretty amazing considering it's from 1961. I've met people from 1961 who might have rust on them. This car has nothing. Kind of a shame that I'm doing an inexpensive paint job. I actually bought this car thinking that it was going to be kind of a low grade, nice car that I could do this makeover on. Then you sand it down and find out it's actually a pristine body that just had bad paint on top. So I'll have to do it justice, but it is turning out really nice. I'm actually just getting ready for primer right now, where I'm going to be the areas that I had to sand down a little further, put a little bit of filler on where it had the chips in the hood. That has to get primed so I can see where the imperfections are. And part of the reason why I have it in the daylight, as I do right now, is A, as I'm sanding, the dust doesn't go all over my garage, but B, it's so that I can see all the little imperfections. Sunlight really shows off that stuff well, and I'm going over it with, well, not with a fine-tooth comb, not in the literal sense, but in the figurative sense I'm going over it, touching bits up, and I am going to be starting to put some primer down, so that's what's next for me. Well, I'm definitely beyond the point of no return on this thing. In just a couple days, I've got it stripped, I've got it sanded, I've got parts of it primed, kind of going through it. I have a little bit of spot putty, which I'm waiting for it to dry right around here. That's just like little rock chips in places that I didn't notice at first, and when I put the primer on, I could tell. So once that spot putty dries up, I almost said prutty. Once putty dries up, once the spot putty dries up, and I sand off some of the filler I put on there, I'm going to drive it over and hose it off, and I can actually give this thing a wet sanding, which is when you get the car wet, and there's a special type of sandpaper you use that you can wash the car basically with. And if you guys are watching this, no, I'm not you could probably put two and two together that I'm not a professional body person. I'm just some guy with some free time who's trying to make something better than what it was. So don't get all worked up in the comments if I'm not doing something the way you would do if you're a professional body person and you work on cars for a living. This is just a guy in his yard working on a car, and I'm really hoping it does turn out decently. But I'm going to sand my little bits down and get the car moved over. Next step is wet sanding. You can tell if it's wet or dry sandpaper because it'll tell you right on the back. It's usually gray like this. Car has to be wet, which it now is. Sandpaper also has to be wet, and you just basically wash your car with sandpaper all over, and that'll get it to a nice smooth finish, and you'll be able to see where any imperfections are. The end of another day. Sun is almost all the way down, and this car is mostly primed. So far I haven't had to touch the primer I actually bought as part of my budget for this project. I had old cans of primer that I've been using. So if I can return one or both of those cans, I'll be even more on budget than I am right now. The goal tomorrow is I'm going to start actually putting some black, some color on here. So I'm going to scuff up these jambs and the inside of the door. I'm going to start putting the black all in there. And anywhere that's kind of a little bit tougher to reach. Probably like the cracks, the spaces, the gaps between the fenders. I'll put a coat in there. Because when I actually do go to spray this car, I'm going to tape off the wheels and everything, but I want to go straight across and the other way, and I don't want to have to stop and worry about kind of doing those little areas like the jams and that. So we're gonna get that all out of the way now, so when I put the final coat on this vehicle, I won't have to worry about it. Anyway, I'm gonna put it back in the garage for now. It is nice that the car is running and driving, so I can just drive it in and out of the garage. But that's it for another day. Tomorrow is paint, and well, not the whole thing. Well, maybe the whole thing. I guess we'll see. It is 7 a.m. and it's going to shape up to be a beautiful day today. We're nearing October in Canada. It's going to be 27 degrees Celsius today. That's kind of summer temperature for us. Can't tell you what that is in Fahrenheit offhand. It's probably like 90 or 85 or something. Anyway, it's warm. Maybe not that hot, but it's warm out today. And it's going to be the perfect day for me to paint the car. I spent last night getting the car, the headlights taped up and covered. And this morning I have to run out to go get a regular can of spray paint, because the turbo can sprays so wide that I can't do any kind of detail work with it. That's one problem. So I have little areas that I need a little can for, so I'm going to run out and grab that. Hopefully it should be warm enough by about 10 a.m. that I can start laying down some paint in some of the door jamb areas and other spaces. So off I go to Home Depot to find myself the paint I need. Okay, got my paint. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm painting under the hood and under the trunk flat black. Satin sort of finish is fairly common for the underside of a hood, especially on an old vehicle like this. And it's a quick, easy, and effective way to kind of clean it up. Once I have that completely sprayed, I'm going to get the gloss black and start spraying all around, all around there. And we'll clean up this radiator, make it look a little nicer. But any bit that's red currently needs to be painted, so it's got to start somewhere. Well, that probably does it for getting the trickier spots that I wanted to make sure I had good coverage on before I actually sprayed a wide spray. I'll be using the Turbo Rust-Oleum cans on the exterior once I do the big passes. But I did the door jambs and up by the dashboard and got down in the little cracks there. So we're gonna let this dry. I'm gonna pull some of the tape off that I put on there, and I'm gonna wet sand the whole car. It's gonna get another wash, another wet sand before it gets final paint. I just gotta let this set up, and then I'll start tearing into the final paint job. Woo-doo-doo-woo. Feeling pretty smooth. I'm gonna give it a rinse. I've gone over the whole car with the wet sandpaper another time, and I'm gonna wash it off and move it back on the driveway and let it dry. Moved it over here because I figured I may as well get my grass some water while I'm doing this anyway. It's actually surprisingly still pretty green here, considering it's almost October and Canada is known to be a cold, snowy place. It is gorgeous outside today. I started spraying the first coat with my massive ultimate black enamel from Turbo Spray from Rust-Oleum, and as you can see, it is going on the car relatively evenly. The only challenge I've had so far is that you get to the bottom or near the bottom of the can and you start to get death spatter. That's when you've all probably had this when you're spray painting something and you're like, oh, it's all going good, and then suddenly it like it decides to puke on your car. So I just had that happen to me. I'm not gonna freak out. I've had this happen before. Sometimes that stuff will settle down and it'll even itself out. Other times though, well, you have to wet sand it. But since this is just the first coat, I am planning on wet sanding anyway, so like I said, I'm not really too worried about it. But you can see the car is turning to a different shade, the shade of black. And are there shades of black? I think any other shade of black would be like a gray. Anyway, it's going black. I'm gonna wet sand it in a little while and let that set up. And hopefully this afternoon I can get the top coat done. First coat is on and wet sanded. And I have to admit, at this stage of the game, I'm not feeling optimistic. There's still a few spots I have to touch up, but there's more than a few spots to touch up. The problem I'm having is that, well, to get a nice even coat, the can doesn't last as long as I'd like. I mean, you get a couple passes down one side and your can's almost empty, and then you get the death spatter, and then, well, you gotta sand it out. I'm only about $150 of materials into it, however, so I still have a little bit of room, a little bit of wiggle room to make a couple mistakes, but I'm gonna let this dry. And you can see my sanding marks on there. I'm gonna let this dry fully, because I just washed it. Re-tape the signal lights, and you know, the next coat of paint that goes on is going to be almost a final coat, I want to say. But truth be told, it's going to take a lot of patience and a lot of sanding and a lot of work to make this rattle can job look half decent. So I don't know, so far it's going okay, I guess. We'll see what happens. I didn't film myself spraying what was supposed to be the final coat on the car, because as I started to lay down a second coat, the worst thing possible happened. It started to orange peel, crackle. I followed their directions, I waited the appropriate amount of time before I put the second coat on, and it started to crackle. All my hard work so far could seem potentially screwed up. So I'm salty, I'm angry, I'm upset. My only hope really is that I can take this paint that's on here, wet sand it, and polish that out. But I have no idea if that's even going to be possible. Only time will tell. I'm rinsing it off right now. You know, I don't know what to tell you. It's not so much fun. So far, you know, all the prep work and everything I did was fine. But the trying to use a spray bomb versus using an actual spray gun, not so hot. Oh, who knows? Maybe we'll see. Maybe it'll wet sand and polish out fine and this will all be behind me. But right now, not feeling super happy. So this is my life now. Wet sanding with 800 grit. Trying to get rid of any remnants of orange peel or issues. and it is coming back a bit. So maybe, if I'm lucky, just maybe I can save this paint job. It is so frustrating when you work so hard on something just to have it kind of fail in the 9th inning. So I've got it just about all sanded down. I'm gonna pull it into the garage, let it dry, and tomorrow I'll see if I can take some polish to it. But that's as far as I got today. A coat of now dull looking paint, but it is all one color at least anyway. Better than it was before. So not the greatest update today because I was a little frustrated with how things worked out, but I did make some progress, and the car is all black and I've got it wet sanded, and there is hope for it to be polished out. So I'm not giving up yet. So tune in for the next episode where I attempt to polish this thing and see if I can bring that paint back to where it needs to be. But for now, I'm gonna put it inside, call it a night, and try and put today behind me. Okay guys, to try and save this paint, I've wet sanded it. You can see it doesn't look super great. Obviously, this would be awful if I stopped right here. I am going to try some wax. I've actually just got some generic kind of spray wax and 1000 grit steel wool. And I'm going to, it's actually a polish, I should say, it's not a wax, it's a polish. I'll use wax later. But the goal is to work small sections. I tell you, I'm getting my arm workout here today with this steel wool to smooth all the bumps out. And I can feel when it's getting close because there's little or no drag. And you can actually hear the difference too, where it's smooth versus rough. Okay, let's just test this and see how it's looking. Well, it's zoom out. It's faded, which is okay, but a lot of those bumps are now gone, which is good because I can work with faded. I can polish that up with other grits of sandpaper, or sorry, polish. But you know, the goal is to kind of get it a little on the shinier side. I'm gonna have to do the whole car numerous times to make it shiny, but I'm not gonna give up, not yet. Well, Mr. Miyagi might have had something there because I waxed on and waxed on all night and my arms are killing me. All that work, I did manage to bring the shine up on it. What it looks like is an old lacquer paint job. It doesn't look like a super high gloss modern paint job. It looks like a lacquer paint job put on many years ago, which I guess is okay considering it's an old car, but not the finish I was hoping for. I'm gonna try a couple more types of polish to try and even out the bits on the side, but I've got to start getting this assembled because my Citroen car that I've been working on is coming home tomorrow, and I don't have room in the garage because I got stuff everywhere. So I'm going to get cleaning and polish one more time, and then we'll start reassembly. With the challenges I've been having with the paint, I did have one positive. I was able to return 2 cans of unused primer. That gave me $100 credit, of which I used some of it to get some 3M professional polishing compound, which I'm hoping will bring that luster back. So still completely on budget so far, and I was looking at my bill. So far I've totally spent $525. That's a weird way to say it. I've spent a total of $525 Canadian. Those primer cans were 50 bucks each, and one of them came out of the can not working right, and the other one I just didn't use. So that's at least 100 bucks back towards it, and you know, things are looking up. Anyway, I'm gonna head back to the house. I'm gonna wet sand the car a little more and try this polishing compound and hope I can bring that shine back up. I've been polishing now for many hours and I got the car looking better. Anyway, let me show you. There are spots on the paint which, ooh, falling over. You can see my reflection perfect. I got the paint looking really nice. Generally, I've got almost the whole car looking like that. So a good passable driver quality paint job. I am probably gonna wax it after all is said and done, but I'm gonna start getting the windscreen and the fender welting, the beading that goes in there back on. Just typically start getting it reassembled. So that's what I'm hoping to get done fairly soon. Oh, got a little bit of polish that made its way on there. And I use the 3M rubbing compound. That stuff worked wonders to actually really help save this paint. And then I moved into a Meguiar's Mirror Glaze cleaner wax. And after this is, after I'm done doing this, I'm gonna move into just a traditional kind of wax. But yeah, I was really worried the other day. It's actually looking okay now. It's not gonna be perfect, but for the, you know, $500 that I've spent on it, it's a whole lot better than what it was. Gosh, after all that work polishing this thing up, trying to make it look somewhat presentable, it'd be nice to finally get the new grill on, which is what I'm gonna do right now. It comes with the brackets and the bolts and everything I pretty much need to get it on. I'm just gonna get this fitted so that it doesn't rub into the paint and get it installed. Elvis Aaron Presley had one of these cars, and if you could see mine right now, he'd probably say, what happened to it? Because mine is not as nice as I'm sure his was last time he saw it. Just about got the grill on, and then we'll have a look and see what it looks like. Well, one new part on, a whole bunch more to go. Just starting to get the fenders bolted on. I was thinking about my earlier comment about Elvis. If Elvis Presley was here, he'd probably have a lot more questions, you know, as to why he was in the future and where was he, why was he suddenly in Canada, as opposed to why is your MG in such bad shape. You never know. I mean, if it was me and all this happened, that might be what I would say, but I think Elvis would have more on his mind than that. It's the end of day 3. I've started putting some of the parts on the car, so some things that were kind of piled up around here are starting to slowly make their way toward the vehicle. I've been polishing and cleaning, and the car looks better. It's certainly not a professional job, but it does look better. So I'm gonna get back at it again tomorrow. But as for me right now, look, my pants are completely covered in power polished debris. So is my nice jacket that somebody made for me. I've been using it. A while ago, somebody made this nice embroidered vintage jacket that said Curiosity Inc. on the back. You can kind of see it there anyway. And I used it today and I got it dirty and I feel guilty about it. So it's gonna go in the wash. I'm gonna get back at this tomorrow and hopefully there'll be some kind of good unveiling when I get this car completed. Well, with some of the bits on now, like the bumpers and the grille, got the headlight trim back on, I've got to start thinking about what to do about the interior. Now, it's not in terrible shape, but it's just dirty. Doesn't help that I was doing all this body work around it and got some splatter from the power polisher on there, but that'll clean up. So I guess I'll start clearing this out and see exactly what I got to work with the interior, what kind of shape the carpets are in, and start cleaning everything up. Well, I guess first step will be getting some of the important stuff I still need to installed, like the rearview mirror, and get some of these screws up off the floor, pull some of these bits of carpeting out. That looks like it goes right over the top, actually. Look at the vacuum in here. It's a bit of a mess. Doesn't look pretty, but this should all vacuum and clean up with a little elbow grease. Here's hoping. Well, that's a little cleaner, a little tidier. I've got to get the seats cleaned up and put back together. think I've got some floor mats I was keeping behind that I can put in this car too. It's all little bits that have to go together in the end here. Carpets are cleaned, seats are scrubbed down. That just about takes care of the interior. Aside from a few other things, this car is just about done. So after 3 days and $525 spent on materials, Canadian, which is probably like $350 US, this is what I'm left with. I was able to polish out that paint quite a bit. If it wasn't for that 3M rubbing compound, I don't think I would have been able to get this kind of finish off of a spray can. That's not too shabby. With the money left over, because I did return a couple cans of primer, I was able to get some gray paint for the wheels. And of course the interior was already in decent shape, just dirty, so that just took some cleaning. Let me open the door here and show you. That just took some cleaning to bring that back up. Cleaned up the door panels, cleaned up the seats and the dashboard. That is all good now. And it is a car with really pretty lines. You know, like it is your typical sort of classic sports car. And considering this thing was non-running when I got it, and the paint was brushed on with a brush, complete color change, that's not too bad of a job, I would say. I definitely would want to go over it with the polish again, just to bring out that shine a little bit more. It's not bad, but there's areas where it's a little cloudy that I have to kind of come back and clean up. But for a, let's call it a $350 US paint job, I think it turned out pretty decent. So there you have it, folks. Under budget, $600 Canadian budget. Came in at $525, and that's including the paint and materials and everything I used on the car. So that's roughly, I don't know, $350 US again. And I think, would I do it again? I don't know. It was pretty frustrating. I think if I had a proper spray booth and I could really take my time and, you know, I don't know that I use, I'm sorry, Rust-Oleum, I don't know that I'd use your brand of paint again, because when I did go to apply a second coat, it orange peeled really bad. And it was a nice warm day. There shouldn't have been any reason for that to happen. And that was extremely frustrating. And it set me back. I probably could have had this done in the equivalent of 2 days if it wasn't for the paint going wrong like that. So with a lot of work and a lot of effort, I was able to bring it out to somewhat of a shine and make it look decent. But check your materials closely that you're using. It is nice that the Rust-Oleum can spray a nice wide spray, but I found that it spent the can very quickly. And again, it was really frustrating when I went to put on the second coat and it started to crackle in places. So anyway, there you have it. I did this video again to just kind of show that you don't have to be scared. You don't have to be afraid to tear into the old car hobby, especially if you're on a budget. I have a very cool looking car that you'd probably be fine taking to a car show. Nobody really have any concept that that was, you know, rattle canned in a yard. It looks pretty decent. And with the money that's left over from it, I'm going to mend a couple things that need fixing. Since I got the car out and running around, and I've been driving around on my property here a little bit, I found that the brake on the back has started to develop a leak, and the fluid has gone through, so now it's got no brakes. That was fun finding that out. So there's a couple little things I want to take care of. Plus I still have to put the convertible top on, but that'll be another day, another project for me. But for this video, guys, I'm signing off. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope somebody watched this thing, because boy, was it a lot of work. My arms are tired. My whole body aches from working so hard over, it ended up being about 36 hours, about 3 days worth of actual work. I don't count it as 4 because one of those days I really didn't work on the car at all. So 3 solid days from start to finish, and that happened. So guys, thank you very much for watching. We'll see y'all soon, and bye for now. Oh, subscribe if you haven't done that too. Hit the subscribe button wherever it is on your monitor. Bye for now, guys.